guys, welcome to book club number 6. It's the last chapter of our book, and it's called Miss Petitfour and the It was an autumn day with exciting weather, shivering blasts of wind and silver clouds against a purple sky. This was Miss Petitfour's favorite kind of day and her favorite season, when it was cold enough to wear a cardigan and blustery enough for thrilling sails across the countryside. Chilly days gave Miss Petitfour extra energy, and today she was eager to gather the cats and her most colorful tablecloth and sail off on an adventure. The cats loved autumn too. They liked to make tottering mountains of leaves so high that the slightest breath of a breeze would tremble the pile. The three captains, Captain Cat King, and Captain Clothespin, and Pirate, liked to sneak their way very carefully into the bottom of these shifting, shuddering mountains. And there, curled up in their secret crinkly spot, they would listen to the whole whispery weight of the leaves stirring above them. They hid there quietly, with little corners of light peeking in through the leaves. The Captain Cats and Pirate loved everything to do with wind and boats and the sea. They loved fancy sailor knots and the shiny buttons on a captain's uniform and Buccaneer's big brass belt buckles. And so, as the Leaf Mountain heaved and crackled, they would close their eyes and pretend they were on a big wooden sailing ship. You know, the kind with billowing square sails and ropes snapping against the mast. Pirate and the captains loved sea stories, but weren't too keen about actually going on a voyage, which might require at some point getting wet. So they were very content to just curl up and listen to the wind and dream of the sea, a simply splendid way to spend a morning. While Pirate and the captains imagined sea voyages inside the Leaf Mountain, the other cats ran in circles, gathering more and more leaves onto the pile. They jumped to catch falling leaves, tackling them in midair. Taffy was especially good at the flying tackle, bringing down more leaves himself than all the other cats put together. Tackling leaves before they reach the ground is not as easy as it sounds. In fact, if you've ever tried, you know that you can leap for an entire afternoon and not catch a single one. But the cats knew a secret. You must throw yourself into the air all the places where the leaf is not. You must jump sideways away from the direction the leaf seems to be falling, and then, when the wind changes its mind at the very last second, you will be there to catch it. But there they are. The kitty's under, and the kitty's catching leaves. And so on this particular October morning, when Miss Petitfour looked out her kitchen window, she saw all the cats in squirming sideways leaps, long furry cat blurs in the air, while gentle gusts blew the leaves every which way. The wind was so full of cats and colors that Miss Petitfour decided right then and there to bake buttery leaf-shaped biscuits with orange and yellow and red icing for the cats' tea. And leaf biscuits never require jumping in the opposite direction. On the contrary, they always sit quietly on the plate, just waiting to be caught, and never jump away from your fingers at the last second. And that's why we never get tired of eating leaf biscuits and can gobble up quite a few before needing to take a rest. While Miss Petitfour sifted powdery flour, making clouds of white dust and speckling the counter, and while she scooped sugar and made little bowlfuls of icing, she thought about the great annual festival of festooning that was to take place that afternoon. The festival of festooning always attracted a big crowd, including many people who came by mistake, thinking it wasn't about festooning, but about cartooning or ballooning. Festooning is, of course, just a fancy word for cleverly decorating things, for draping ribbons and streamers and lace and jewels on things to dress them up. A perfect example is decorating a Christmas tree, festooning it with strings of popcorn and shiny garlands. Fancy occasions can always use some festooning, and everyone festoons in their own way. Mechanics hang shiny new nuts and bolts as ornaments. Chefs hang gleaming spoons and icicles of twisted aluminum foil. And office assistants make extra long streamers out of Post-it notes and paper clips. As you well know, the cats were especially fond of festooning themselves, with velvet and satin ribbon and skeins of wool and necklaces from Miss Petitfour's costume jewelry box. The cats also liked to use themselves and each other to festoon furniture and to join their tails and dangle from curtains and curl around the banister. They would create an elaborate and dramatic display of themselves, and Miss Petitfour would take their picture. Say cheese! Miss Petitfour was very proud of her cats and was looking forward to the great display they were going to present at the festival, hoping to win the shiny silver trophy for first prize. While she was baking herself leaf biscuits and daydreaming about the festival, Miss Petitfour's mind began to wander to other interesting topics. Diversion alert! Miss Petitfour thought about the fact that there are some things you have to do every day, like brush your teeth and put on your shoes and eat breakfast. Some people believe that if you have to do the same old dull thing every day, then you should just try to ignore it as much as you can and hope it will all go away. Or that you should rush through whatever it is at top speed so you won't have time to be bored. But Miss Petitfour believed that if you had to do something every day, then that was all the more reason to make it fun. What do you think? Is it better to hold your nose and slowly eat little crumbs of cauliflower, or is it better to steam the whole thing and serve it on a big platter like a giant snowball? Is it better to brush your teeth wearily, as if you were running out of batteries, or to brush your teeth singing long verses of sea shanties in your head and stamping your foot to the rhythm? You know, sea shanties, those long songs with lots of verses that Miss Petitfour and Miss Collywiller sang on Thursdays, and the sailors sing while they do what sailors do, which is mostly a lot of pulling hard on ropes to let down the anchor and pull it back up again, or to lower those big sails and raise them back up again. Well, Miss Petitfour was all for a good sea shanty while brushing her teeth, pulling that toothbrush up and down and stamping her little foot. Were you ever in Quebec, bonny laddie, Highland laddie, stowing timber on the deck, bonny Highland laddie, hey ho, and away we go, bonny Highland laddie. Of course, the captain cats always joined in, thumping their tails to the beat. And as far as eating breakfast every day was concerned, Miss Petitfour was definitely of the same school of thought. If you have to sit at the table and pretend to be hungry, just because you probably will be hungry the moment you get to school, so you better eat something before you leave, then you might as well make your French toast in different shapes and build a house out of it, or cut your grapefruit in circles to look like the sun. Miss Petitfour thought ordinary things should be made grand, or in the case of Minky, who was the smallest of all the cats, little grand. Tiny Minky was a slip-through-a-keyhole kind of cat who was scared of whole carrots the size of baseball bats and apples as big as pumpkins, for that's how big they looked to her. So Miss Petitfour cut her carrots into little swords and sliced her apples into little round shields, just the perfect size for Viking Minky. While she was baking her leaf biscuits, Miss Petitfour also thought about the fact that there were certain tiresome things people were always saying, like, "Go on now, eat it all up, it's good for you." If people really insist on saying such dreary things, then we may as well hear them as if they were fun. For example, the next time someone says, "It's good for you," then you should simply hear, "Good for you." The way someone says it after you've done something incredible, like reciting the alphabet backwards or painting a picture of a capybara. "Good for you, good for you." Or when someone says, "Hurry up then, are you going to take all day?" You should just hear, "Take all day," and not feel rushed at all. These are the sort of things that Miss Petitfour thought about, and so she was never bored. Even when there's nothing else to do, there's always something to think about. You can think about cats who play badminton, or confetti kings who chase clouds, or if you're like Minky, you can think about cheese. Now, Miss Petitfour had just put the leaf biscuits into the oven to bake. In fact, she had just shut the oven door when she heard a peculiar noise. It was a very faint whoop of a sound coming from quite a distance away. It sounded as if a feather pillow had exploded. Just a single faint puff of air, like a pa without the pa, or boom without the b. For a long moment, Miss Petitfour stood in the kitchen and listened. But as everything was just as peaceful after the as it had been before, she decided to think no more about it. And just as soon as the leaf biscuits were baked and put on a platter to cool, she and the cats readied themselves to fly off to the festival. There's the leaf biscuits. Oh, it was a perfect day for flying. Far below they saw the countryside all golden and bronze, all the trees shining their autumn colors. The wind made the long grasses swim in the fields, and Miss Petitfour and the cats looked down with joyful hearts. The beauty of the day made each of the cats and even Miss Petitfour mew with pleasure. Young Clasby mewed the loudest, for he especially loved the trees and fields from above and always looked carefully, so later he could paint a picture of what he saw. The flight was glorious, and fast too. In 10 minutes flat they had sped past the outskirts of the village and beyond to the exhibition hall, which was already filled up with festooners. Some festooning things. Whoa. There was such a bustling. Everyone seemed to be running around pell-mell, carrying bolts of rustling stiff crepe paper and spools of silent velvet ribbon. There was the swish of tinsel and the jittering of plastic beads. And everyone had brought such fancy objects to festoon. Castles and bridges and giant towers, stuffed giraffes and knights in armor. Miss Petitfour and the cat stared in amazement. And throughout the crowd, weaving to and fro, clutching a clipboard and a magnifying glass, was Padma Patel, Pleasant's grandmother, who was the official judge of the competition and who was having a good look around while everyone was setting up. Miss Petitfour stood back and let the cats get to work. While all around them festooners were struggling with bulky castles and heavy trellises, the cats had brought with them only a single extra long strand of gold ribbon. Elegantly and with perfect teamwork, the cats slipped this way and that, and in no time at all had pulled the ribbon into a perfect cat's cradle. You know the game Cat's Cradle, when you wrap the string around your hands and pass the cradle from one person to the next. You know? Ask someone immediately. Well, wait, here.